Jonathan Bartlett for Sociology for Joe Megan. The first review blog is the Chris Herren story. It tells the story of the high school basketballer who hit the big time at a very young age and how drugs came into his life, and he failed a drugs test when he was in Boston College and Fresco, and how it took over his talent. The actual drugs itself determined where he came in the draft, so it took effect on his draft pick, and he ended up going to the NBA Boston Celtics. And also drugs took over his life, and also affected the team, and it made him actually travel from country to country and affect his family life. What I liked about the movie, it gave excellent insight into drugs in sport and why athletes take drugs in the first place, the pressures of being on top all the time, and but personally I'd say it's Chris Herren himself being brutally honest about he never hid the fact that he actually took recreational drugs and that he was taking them as a lifestyle, not as a professional drug. What I just liked about the documentary, I felt like some of the details, like, the car crash, when he ended up crashing the car after he got his kick, and he ended up sleeping in the streets. And I felt during the car crash after that scene that they completely they sugar-coated that and kind of kept him still in a good light, so they could have continued on what happened after the car crash. Like if it was me or you and we had that car crash, it would have followed on in the court and yaddy. So it would have been I felt some bits were taken out purposely to kind of just sugarcoat a bit. And what I learned about the film is I have more of an understanding why players feel the need for drug taking and the pressures of maintaining a high level of performance. Like Chris himself, like without the drugs, there's one scene in the film that he wouldn't go on to the basketball field until he had his drugs. So he had that thought in his head that he needed these drugs to play basketball. But that's that film, and I'm going to include the Marion story as well, because it follows on from drugs and sport. It follows the track and field athlete and her rise to the top, which in the 2000 Olympics in Athens, she won 3 golds, 2 bronze, and eventually in 2007, finally she admitted to using sport-enhancing drugs after years of denial. And it also tells of her time in prison, where she spent 6 months for lying to federal investigators, and now she's free and she plays with the Women National Basketball Association. What I liked about the film, I liked how closely detailed they followed her, like her time during the Olympics to actually when she was in prison itself. I enjoyed how close they got into the insight of prison life. I didn't like how she lied constantly for so long about her non-use of drugs after the Olympics. That she was a role model to nearly every American, but mostly kids and anyone that wanted to get into track and field and athletics, how it affected that she was constantly lying. And the bit as well, because she lied about her drug taking in the Olympics, it kind of put a different view on her time in prison. She told the story where she was attacked, but when you hear about her sport enhancing drugs, it kind of makes you think, was her side of the story in prison true after hearing what happened? So I didn't like that. She just felt like that's what I enjoyed about Chris. Chris was brutally honest. She was hiding behind this kind of the perfect role model kind of idea. The similarities, not similarities, but I like the fact that there are 2 stories about drugs, but they show both sides of drugs. They have the performance you have the performance enhancing, but they also have the recreational drugs, and the difference in bans for Chris and Marion. So I enjoyed seeing both aspects of drug taking in sports, and that's the Chris Herring and Marion Jones video blog.